then it was time for the gauntlet with about, 40 minutes left on the show, something like that. Could have been worse.
Yep.
We started with Ricochet versus JD McDonna.
I was actually surprised by the discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it was going on last, when I realised, oh my God, they're in the main event with this. What?
Ricochet goes for a flying crossbody, but McDonna catches him with a gut buster. Ricochet tries to come back. McDonna gets his knees up on a lion salt. He hits a brain buster for 2. Ricochet hit a poison rana and McDonna hit a Spanish fly.
Right, allow me to rant here.
I figured this was coming.
Allow me to friggin' rant on this, right? I had a bit of an existential crisis when I watched this spot, right? Because I'm thinking, and I've wrestled with this for quite some time in terms of my coverage and how I approach it. I think I'm largely on the correct side, but now I don't know what's correct anymore. This is going to sound ridiculous, but just go with me here. When it's always been bad. It's been bad since AEW launched. I think 2021 or 2022. It felt like everything I was writing, I was doing from this like reactionary defensive position of, say for an example, I was, trying to drill into why I thought it was a particularly good AEW story, like a really cute, cool detail about something AEW had done. And I would write something to the effect of, and I thought they didn't tell stories, or something like that. Or I would try and say, this is why tribalism's actually bad. And I thought, why am I wasting my time on this? There's not going to be one single tweet, right? Or one single insight that people are gonna read and go, oh my God, I've been getting this wrong the whole time. Sidgwick's just proved it. That's not how literal brainwashing, which is what the Fed does to people, which is what AEW have done to people as well. Mm-hmm. That's not how this works. You cannot unwash one's brain with an insight. In fact, these aren't insights. Anyone who's rational or, in good faith will know, I know the promotion you prefer can do something bad. Yeah. Or the promotion you dislike can do something good. I heavily lean, in terms of my personal preference, towards one of the 2 wrestling companies. Do you know what I mean? So I had a bit of I watched this spot, and I'm thinking, do you just ignore it? Or what's the right thing to do? Or do you call it out for what it is? Like, when does the sheer amount of wrestling media who just go, like, I listened to the Voices of Wrestling podcast, the flagship, when they made this point. And it did it struck me a little bit of, I mean, there's a lot. There is a lot of anti-AEW coverage. Like, a lot. And should it go unchecked? I think principally, yes. Just ignore it. If everyone could just ignore it. Because the worst genre of tweet isn't, this thing didn't sell in this AEW match. That's one of the worst genres of tweet. The other worst genre of tweet is, here's why the bad takes bad, guys. It's like, anyone you're not insightful for saying this. Yeah. And some really good accounts get caught in that trap, which I've been trying to genuinely avoid for the last year. I've had to, honestly, and it depends on how much of a bubble this all is. It can't be doing AEW's wider perception any kind of favor when people will go, well, Ospreay's not selling. What an amateur hour show this is, blah, blah, blah. And it's all complete nonsense as well. Do you push back, or do you just see it as noise? And I'm going back to, do you push back? I don't know what to do. All I know is, right, I see a spot in this match with that soulless wrestler, JD McDonna, who's on Fraud Watch. I remember he had a match with Tyler Bate in NXT TakeOver UK. And I was like, this is just fraud nonsense. Total, this will get us a reaction. The most cynical, soulless hockey fight that he does. I think JD McDonna is a bad wrestler. If he was getting massive booming reactions for this stuff, I would have to say, not for me, but a very good and effective wrestler. He takes a head bump on a poison Rana, pops back up, and Will Ospreay's not allowed to do this in AEW, but JD McDonna does it in WWE, and no one says anything, right? And does the Spanish fly. It's a version of an Ospreay Takeshita spot, right? And I did it, like, this is hours after, because I watched it live. I Googled McDonna, Ricochet on one tab, and then I opened another tab, and I wrote Ospreay selling. You would not believe the difference between those two things.
I think I probably would.
And, well, you will believe the difference between those things. And the irony, that intense irony that I don't think I can stand anymore, is one version, they're both kind of the same. A delayed sell spot after a head drop, after a kind of a convoluted sequence, right? The difference is, one of them, execution was better, was faster, was more crisp, was more dramatic, was built towards better. Got a much bigger reaction, right? One of them just fell flat on its ass, right? I think you can determine which, right? The difference is that the people who buried the Ospreay spot for it prefer or will abide and just sanction and not really care about a significantly worse, less effective version of the exact same thing because of the initials of the promotion I present. And what we're doing? What am I doing here? You know, like, why can't more people say it?
I think, because I agree with you, by the way, all of this,
Like,
this fell flat for me.
This is the most soulless version of something that's apparently bad. I've been reliably informed it's bad. This was a audibly less effective version of it. Why can't it just they get such a pass? They're the market leader. They get such a pass for doing the same but worse. It's like a Pete Dunne Butch versus Dragon Lee sequence. That was abysmal. The WWE fans in the audience do not care for this style of selling or wrestling. R-Truth got a much better reaction for doing R-Truth stuff. Can you not even switch off that washed part of your brain enough to say, I prefer the other thing. I don't even like it in my promotion.
Couldn't agree more.
But I feel like I've demeaned myself by doing this.
No, I think it's a relevant conversation. I said this on the Dynamite review last week. There was a stubbornness within the way that AEW booked that show that I welcomed we're a wrestling forward promotion and it might not draw right now, but if we tell you exactly what we are every week, every single week of the year, eventually you will know what we are again and you will come back for it if it's the best of its kind. Bryan Danielson or Will Ospreay or whomever. In terms of the criticism and why it's just simply not there, because I think you're bang right. Nobody will pick up on this spot in the way that it appeared, at least. Everybody did that Ospreay Takeshita one. I think, if anything, WWE will attract similar levels of burials for the promos and the presentation. That's where I think the real differences appear as well. AEW will be buried hard by bad faith arseholes who probably don't watch all the time and have seen a GIF and bury in-ring action. WWE will be buried hard by bad faith arseholes
who don't even watch it.
Who don't even watch and see a promo. They won't even consider the matches. They'll see a Seth Rollins promo that they don't like. Again, you can bury it. We sit here every week and talk about it. I'm not talking about you, but people will be like, it's going over there, absolute again, is it? And it's like, no, there's people in the building having the time of their lives, and you've checked in for some corny scripting and thought it's still Vince, it's still terrible, whatever. I think those are the things that are targeted by the people.
I'm not saying it's not on both sides. I'm just saying, like, why can't it just be
well, at the core of this,
thing?
The matches, it's because the WWE matches just don't resonate. Like, people want to see the stars.
That's what it's about.
People want to see the stars wrestle. They don't want to see wrestlers trying to be stars. Like, it's such a big difference. This match got hot. This match got interesting when people had Sami Zayn out there and...
but it's the exact same thing as what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. But, like, we've moved so far away from that in terms of, like, the discourse online that, like, and I have a huge problem with this. Ricochet and JD McDonna, I thought this was, like, soulless.
They're in the wrong promotion.
Artless. And
they're not good enough to be in the other promotion at this point.
Yeah.
I would even say Ricochet isn't.
You absolutely, for me, get exposed on a Raw.
At least at the top level.
The shooting star was gorgeous, right? But, like, Ricochet's always got, like, a gorgeous aerial in him, of course.
It never gets over. He's been doing this for years.
But what's it for? Yeah. What is it for if the reactions are, like, half-arsed? Again, a high spot will get a pop, but, like, nothing else they were doing here did. And you know there's this, like, attitude of, like, you've got 7 or 8 minutes and it's just at the start and it doesn't matter, but go out there and give them hell. show them what you've got. And it's like, nah, there's levels to showing people what you've got. There's a reason. Chad Gable shows people what he's got, and there's a reason why he's in the closing stretch of this, and there's a reason why so many people fan cast him into the spot. His wrestling makes people feel, and that is totally different to, like, talking about Seth, this is move soup. Like, there's word soup in the promos, there's move soup in the matches. I don't think Will Ospreay is a move soup guy, but that is somewhere within me why there's like a little bit of an emotional disconnect when I'm watching his matches. The people criticising the Ospreay Takeshita thing are not thinking that. They're just going, I'll just pile on there. So to pile on something, there needs to be a thing in the first place to pile on top of. This match will just not generate that. It will just not generate.
I want to drop it for now because Chad Gable's individual performance, I think, deserves way more praise than this weird rant I'm on and how much the bubbles matter. But it's one thing if there's like, I hate it when they say a clearly AEW leaning analyst or fan will say, that much wrestling on a wrestling show. I never, ever see like someone who likes WWE say, oh, you know what, for me, there wasn't enough wrestling on that show. I never see that. I never, ever see that.
Nobody gets the stopwatches out for the Eddie Kingston promos that we've had in the last like 2 years, whatever it is, you know.
I do.
Well, yeah, but this is what I mean. Like, no, you're not seeing the where's the sort of the reverse of that? Like, there's been like 5 minutes of Eddie Kingston, one of the best talkers in the world. Why have we only had 5 minutes of him in 2 years? Whatever,
It's just you've got in JD McDonna like the worst Ospreay style wrestler probably in the world for me.
Yeah.
And again, if he was getting reactions, I'd probably be kinda. He just doesn't get where he's working or who he's doing it for. And he's doing the most sub Ospreay, sub fighting spirit, delayed no cells, getting nothing.
I got fooled by him in OTT because the reactions were so loud.
That's the difference.
I got fooled by thinking, man, they've got someone pretty special here in this Jordan Devlin, because in that setting he was built as a star, a homegrown guy. That, you know.
It just underscores how ill people are genuinely. It's one thing if they're going, oh, that Ospreay stuff sucks. He's not selling properly enough. And you're saying, oh, Randy Orton's the guy for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like, right, can we just watching two different things and you should just shut the up about one of them because it's obviously not for you? Like, they've got a worse Ospreay in WWE and no one says anything. It just drives me insane. Absolutely insane.
It's possibly the worst.
And it shouldn't. It really shouldn't.
Like, this Ospreay is he's an industry leader and he's an innovator, and he may have, like, he's obviously followed on from those that came before him. But
Kenny Omega.
He's one of those. Yeah, he's one of those wrestlers that has absolutely, like, he's changed the game in a way that people are going to look to a Will Ospreay to be that. Like, Nick Wayne's a good example of somebody that would probably look at an Ospreay and think that's my ceiling. Like, the copycat Will Ospreay era is going to be a dank and a bleak one.
It already
because
is.
The guys are killing them. Like, that style involves you killing yourself. And if you're doing it in front of a crowd that doesn't care, if you're doing it in front of the, like, even audiences that do care in the right context, a WWE audience will go nuts for great wrestling, as we saw in this very match. But again, it matters the hows, the whens, and the whos as well. Like, if you're JD McDonna, we're not even doing this in Undertaker. Slow it down, kid. It's like, don't do it at all, kid.
Don't do it at all,
Figure out
kid.
a way to get over and then pepper it back in.
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference. Ricochet's trapped. I think Ricochet probably would do all right in AEW. I think his aerial level is such that, like, he's probably got something in his life.
I'm not an idiot.
That
I'm not
nobody
trying
else
to be this guy.
Yeah, no, like, that he's probably got something that nobody else in the world can do. JD McDonna absolutely doesn't get over and then start doing this stuff again, because, like, again, like, Poison Rana in Bayley versus Sasha, like, is like one of my all-time favorite probably moments in pro wrestling ever. But, like, Bayley's not going to drop that in the middle of a SmackDown, like in a match as she builds up to a WrestleMania match. It's when you sort of allow yourself to do something as dangerous as that to make it count. That's
like, it was such a juxtaposition.
Yeah.
For Bayley to do that to somebody. How bad must she have been wronged?
Yeah.
To like be that violent.
They don't get it, and they should. Like, for the good of their own health, let alone for, like, them actually getting over and getting reactions and making money.
Making money, beer.
I was up there and most definitely the top 50 draws, so I know a thing or two.
It drives us insane. It shouldn't. It really shouldn't. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's fascinating to hear you two talk about it, genuinely. Ricochet hits a Death Valley Driver on the apron following the break.